Goedendag. Hello everyone. We are here in the Netherlands in Zandvoort, one of our favorite tracks because it's old school and not forgiving. And the weather might play a role today, we're not sure yet, but probably not during the qualifying, maybe later on during the race. That'll be exciting to see what the weather brings. And exciting is the man who's actually leading the championship. That's Kelvin van der Linde. He is 8 points ahead of Thomas Preining, and after a fantastic race weekend at the Lausitzring, he is truly motivated, and so is his team. So surely we all know qualifying is absolutely essential if he does well here. Yeah, it's all set for the race. So let's see how he does, and now let's get qualifying. Here are the commentators.
Thanks very much, Verena. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Zandvoort, this wonderful racetrack built in amongst the sand dunes, just a stone's throw from the beach here in Zandvoort. It's a unique setting. It's a driver's favourite. As Verena said, it's a proper old-school racetrack. It was originally actually built on the streets of the circuit, and then when it, in 1948, opened as a proper permanent racetrack, it still incorporated parts of old roads. It first hosted a Grand Prix in 1955. The Mercedes of Juan Manuel Fangio was the first Grand Prix winner here, and it has been recently redeveloped in 2020. You've got this fantastic banked corners at turns 3, and particularly turn 14, the Harry Lyndike turn, which is 18 degrees banking, flat out over 200 kilometers an hour. And it is a stunning venue at the back of the circuit as well, where it undulates up and down, flat out through the sand dunes as well. So a driver's favourite. Qualifying is important, though, because there aren't that many overtaking opportunities around here. And welcome to qualifying 1, which is actually the second qualifying session of the weekend. Confusing this because we had Q2 yesterday afternoon. The reason for all of that is that on Sunday there is a practice session for next weekend's Le Mans 24-hour race. 6 of the DTM drivers are taking part. They need to go to Le Mans to have the drivers briefing and take part in that practice session, and then get back here for DTM. So there's no qualifying on Sunday morning. That's already happened. And speaking to the teams, they expected to get back here after catching a private jet and a helicopter from Schiphol Airport back to the track at around about 2:30, 3 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, in time, hopefully, fingers crossed, for the race, which will be later than normal at 4:30. But today, don't worry about it, because it's all normal today. We've got qualifying coming up in a few minutes' time to set the grid for this afternoon's race at 1:30. There is the driver that stunned everybody yesterday, except probably for himself, because he has huge self-belief without having any hint of arrogance. He is a very, very switched-on driver, and Maximilian Paul secured his maiden pole position yesterday, so he'll be on pole for the race on Sunday. Thomas Preining, though, will have work to do. The driver that had a terrific weekend, the reigning champion last time out at the Lausitzring. He got a win and a podium, moved up to second in the standings. He qualified 6th yesterday, but was then later on deemed to have blocked Maro Engel and Clement Schmidt, and has picked up a 5-place grid penalty. So he's going to start the second race of the weekend, 11th on the grid, which puts even more emphasis on the need to do well in this session. And we saw Kelvin van der Linde set and ready to go, the championship leader after the first 2 weekends of the season. He also had a win and a podium last time out. Confirmed start time is going to be 9:55, slightly later than planned, 5 minutes later than planned, because we had a Porsche off in the previous Porsche qualifying session, which delayed their session a little bit and has put us back by 5 minutes. But Kelvin van der Linde also was a bit downbeat after qualifying yesterday, because he did something different to everybody else. He went out early doors, whereas everybody left it until the last few minutes of the session. Kelvin went out at the start of the session, and he was up by 0.4 of a second on his own personal best lap, and then he had an off coming out of the penultimate turn, 2 wheels through the gravel trap, 2 wheels on the grass, and that cost him a good lap time. Also ruined his next lap as well, because he had a slower exit from the final turn. If he'd been 0.4 up in his own personal best lap time, that would have probably put him on for pole position, but as it was, he's going to start, well, qualified 7th, will start 6th now for the second race after Thomas Preining's penalty. There are the championship standings then. Kelvin van der Linde, Thomas Preining and Ricardo Feller, the top 3. Maro Engel had another bad qualifying session yesterday, 12th. He's the driver that's been charging through the field in the races, though. He always qualifies badly, but comes through brilliantly in the races. And Marco Wittmann is another driver that will hope to have a better qualifying session than he had yesterday. He qualified 3rd here in one of the races last year, which was his best of the season. but yesterday wasn't great either. So welcome to qualifying 120 minutes of qualifying to set the grid for this afternoon's race. My name's Chris Hartley, and alongside me in the commentary box, it's a good morning to Brian Oliver.
Morning, Chris. I too will be taking my private jet and helicopter to get here on Sunday morning. What a glorious circuit this is. It's an absolute favourite on the calendar. We're British, so we love talking about the weather. That could be a topic of conversation this weekend, and certainly today, because the weather forecast, well, you looked at it this morning, it was decidedly iffy. Verena said she thinks it's going to stay dry for this entire qualifying session. Well, I like her optimism, because I can see an awful lot of black clouds around. What we normally see, what we saw yesterday in the rather confusingly titled Q2, was a number of drivers, most of the drivers, bar 3, leaving it to the last 5 minutes before turning the wick up and going for the really hot lap. I wonder whether that is going to be the case today. It is a real dilemma because the track is going to be slower. There will have been sand that would have been blown across it overnight. We're surrounded by the sand dunes. The track will be cooler. There's not as much rubber at the moment as there will be at the end of the session. So the big gamble, do you go early and pull the trigger early, or do you go late and then risk either red flag or rain, but you get the benefit of a faster track? So a lot of head scratching going on.
Yeah, absolutely right. We'll find out how that all pans out shortly, but first we can go down to the pit lane and catch up with Verena.
And I'm here with Martin Tomczyk from Up, who's still trying to get his chair all set. We've got a bit of a delay because he's still cleaning up the track, I guess. What does that mean for you, for the drivers? Is the tension higher?
Well, waiting 5 more minutes in the car, but obviously I prefer that they clean the track because obviously it looked really dirty after the Porsche Cup. So luckily we will have a clean track for all of the guys out there because it's not easy in Zandvoort. Usually the dirt, the stones come quite easily on the track. So we will see what happened today, because obviously that was a shame yesterday because Kelvin, he went over dirt and lost the car. So I hope this will not happen today.
He's a leader of the championship, so hopefully he's going to do really well in the qualifying today. Now the sun's coming out because obviously in Zandvoort weather is always a bit tricky too.
Yeah, it drizzled really a little bit this morning, so but now the weather forecast says okay, and when I look out, it seems to be quite nice. So nice Zandvoort sea weather.
We'll see about that, Martin. All right, best of luck for the qualifying. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Thanks very much, Verena. Martin Tomczyk, former DTM champion, of course, team principal at Abt Sportsline these days, and a previous race winner here at Zandvoort back in 2007. The weather is always affected by the wind here. We are right on the North Sea coast, and so the clouds come and go as quickly as you like. And if we do get any rain, it could arrive quickly, but it also could disappear pretty quickly. There you can see the wind speed is pretty high. It's cooler than it was here last year, even though we're later in the season than we were last year. It was a very hot weekend last year. The track temperature last year over the weekend was in and around 35 degrees, much cooler today. We've seen some quick lap times already. Just to give you an idea of what sorts of times are going to be good times in qualifying, well, yesterday pole position for Max Powell was a 1:32.7. The lap record in qualifying set by Maro Engel last year in GT3 was a 1:32.585. Last year, Maro Engel was on pole position for race 1 and won the race. And on Sunday, Ricardo Feller was on pole position and won the race. Smiley-looking Kelvin van der Linde, who knows he's got a quick car underneath him. Just, there you go, Martin Tomczyk saying there was some dirt on the track, which was what forced him off the road at turn 13 and ruined his chances. And actually, Brian, he did it on the next lap as well, didn't he? Almost exactly the same thing.
Yeah, well, one presumes the track was probably still dirty next time he came around. But yes, it was quite a lively moment. Love the fact true racing driver. He kept his foot buried on it, just kept going. Second time around, chucked a load of gravel in the face of his younger brother as well. Just talking about the track evolution, I was talking to some of the Porsche drivers. They had a qualifying session yesterday afternoon. They had a 10-minute break between their Q1 and Q2, and in that period the track had evolved to be something in the region of half a second quicker. I mean, it's phenomenal how quickly the track can change here. Weather conditions, rubber going down, but it really is critical getting the timing right, isn't it?
Yeah, particularly in the morning. We had this chat on the way into the circuit this morning. In the morning, you've obviously it's gone cold overnight. You've got the track temperature warming up as it gets more sunlight on it as the day goes up. There's a bit more rubber being laid down as well. So in theory, it gets a bit quicker as the session goes on, which is why they always tend to leave it to the last 5 minutes of the session. But yesterday's session was, at the end of the day, it was at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So I think that's why Kelvin van der Linde and one or two others thought, do you know what, we could go early. The track isn't really going to change now. It's already had a load of rubber down. The temperatures stayed at around about 18 degrees for the whole afternoon. So it wasn't so much of an issue. That said, most of them still left it to the last 2 or 3 minutes of the session. Maro Engel going out now, 4th in the championship, a race winner here. A replay of what? Them coming out of the... hello. Oh, everybody wanted to go together. Like buses, isn't it? London buses. Nothing happens and everybody comes at once. And Maro Engel having to wait because Lucas Sauer was coming through there and they didn't want the two Mercedes to come into contact. A good qualifying session yesterday for Mirko Bortolotti. Sort of went under the radar a bit, didn't he? But second place, more points secured, 2 more championship points for achieving that. The top 3 in a qualifying session score championship points. And Mirko is, for race 2 tomorrow at least, going to be in front of all his championship rivals. I had a good long chat with the team principal of SSR Performance, Mario Schubauer, yesterday. And he was saying, you know, Mirko is just brilliant at being able to switch it on for 1 lap. He said, some tracks we were able to get 2 laps out of the tyres in a qualifying session. But around here, I think it's really only 1. There's Jack Aitken was saying there's quite a few patches of the circuit now. They've got really old tarmacs. They're quite hard on the tyres around here. And he said, you've probably only really got 1 chance at this. And he said, Mirko Bortolotti is just brilliant at being able to switch it on and pull out that lap out of the bag. And he hasn't had a, you know, he got pole position at Oschersleben, but had issues at the pit stop. That's a full course yellow that might have cost him a win anyway. So he's had that pole position, but he's always thereabouts in qualifying, and he's been thereabouts in all the races. And that's kind of what you need to do at the start of the season. Just hang in there, get points when you're not necessarily having your best weekend, and then later in the season, pull one out of the bag, get a few wins and be up there. And of course, having been second in the championship last year, he very much knows how to fight for the title.
Yes, you discount Mirko Bortolotti at your peril, don't you? And he did a Mirko Bortolotti in that qualifying session yesterday, because all of his fans were worried because he was in 20th and last place for much of the session. Like, oh dear, he's got problems, oh no. And then 1 lap on the tyres, that's a really good insight, isn't it? He picked his time when he thought was absolute best, and he came out and he pretty well nailed it. And as you say, it is consistency rather than just odd wins here and there. It's just scoring the points. DNFs can hurt really badly for many of the championship, the drivers at the top of the championship at the moment. Fortunately, their rivals have had DNFs as well. But normally, a DNF can really hurt a driver throughout the entire season. And just that consistency is what would win a championship.
Absolutely. And Mario Schubauer was also saying, yeah, Nicky Tim is... it's just not clicking at the moment. Not anything he's doing wrong. He said Nicky Tim is one of the top 10 GT drivers in the world, I reckon. He's great. And he said also what's been brilliant is how well Nicky Tim and Mirko Bortolotti are working together as a team. He said you never know when you get 2 drivers together who are both competitive, both really quick. You know, sometimes they can just not work together very well. They don't talk to each other. He said those 2, brilliant together. They work really well. And for us as a team, that's fantastic. It's just that Nicky Tim's had some bad luck. He said, you know, I won't use the expression that he actually said, but he said sometimes you just can't shake off your bad luck. And he said either he's made a small mistake or we've made a mistake or he's had some bad luck. It's just not clicked, but he will be up there and he will be fighting and helping Mirko out later on. So Kelvin van der Linde has pulled the trigger early again. We've seen his teammate Ricardo Feller. He's definitely not going to do that. He's not even in the car yet. So Ricardo Feller has not been happy with the balance of his car all weekend long. Looked pretty downbeat yesterday. I saw him in the paddock a couple of times, and he was intense conversations with race engineers. So, having been a winner here last year, you'd think, oh, arrive, you know, this is a place where we can go well. He felt like he could have got a win last time out at Oschersleben. He's fighting for the championship, having finished 3rd last year. But it's just not clicked, and that's, again, what you go back to saying, Brian, about a track changing all the time. You think you know it, you think you've got a setup, you come back the next year and it's just not working.
Yes, and I've lost count of how many drivers I've spoken to over the last couple of days who said we had it absolutely dialed in free practice. We touched nothing. We got back into it in the next session and it was nowhere. And the operating window is so narrow on these cars, and when the track is changing and there's sand blowing across and the rain is coming and going, there are so many variables. So because somebody was good yesterday doesn't mean they're going to be good today. But Kelvin van der Linde certainly did something very different to everybody else in yesterday's qualifying session. Looks like he's going to do exactly the same today, because that worked. The track is a lot younger in the day, so to speak, so whether that works or not, well, we'll find out in the next 14 minutes or so, won't we? He's certainly pushing now, so this is his first push lap. His previous time was an out lap or a build lap. So here he is into turn 13, up onto the wonderful 18-degree banking, effectively extending the pit straight because he can go full throttle out of turn 14, out onto the pit straight, giving it full beans out across the line. So the first competitive time is a 1:33.063.
That's not bad.
So that's only 0.3 slower than what was the pole position time yesterday.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. So he's already gone quicker than he went yesterday, and the excursion at turn 13 yesterday. You can see him really attacking the chicane section at turns 11 and 12. So Kelvin's full of confidence at the moment. He was, yeah, they were sort of a bit lost at Oschersleben. He was even questioning himself. Why was it so off the pace? Why was Ricardo Feller's car, his teammate, going so well there and on the podium? They then found a crack in the weld in the chassis, having taken it the whole thing apart after Oschersleben, and then realised that's the problem. That's why it wasn't there. Nothing to do with Kelvin, nothing to do with the setup of the car. And there you go. He was absolutely flying last time out the Lausitz ring. So went from 9th to 1st in the championship. Here is somebody else who had a flying start to the season with a race victory. His first, Luca Enxler. And he's one of the drivers that's absolutely flying compared to where he was this time last year. After 2 weekends last year, Luca Enxler had 4 championship points. This year, he arrives into the 3rd weekend of the season with 43 championship points. In fact, I talked about this yesterday in free practice, but the top 12 have all scored more points already this season than they had at this stage last year, with the exception of Thomas Preining, who scored exactly the same amount of points as he'd scored after 2 race weekends in 2023. And he went on to win the championship last year. So it's a high bar that's been set, and a high bar is being set here by Kelvin van der Linde. He is up on his 2 sector times so far, and this is going to be a quicker lap from him. He goes through, or is it? No, he loses out on the last sector, 1:32.469. He's better than he was before, but 1:32.469. And did he have a lap taken away from him? Thinking about that, that was
quicker than yesterday's pole.
No, it is. Yeah,
so
sorry. Yeah. It is 1:32.469.
Yes.
In fact, that's a new lap record.
Yeah.
Because Maro Engel's lap record last year was a 10th slower than that. So Kelvin van der Linde, new lap record, 2 quick laps, but a really quick one there. 1:32.469. That's going to be hard to beat. He's still pushing as well. Absolute best in the first sector. Max Powell, he's out on track, hasn't really set a proper lap time yet. And everybody else, apart from Marco Wittmann, still in the pit, still waiting. So Kelvin's thinking, right, the tactic worked yesterday. It's just I've got to be unlucky with some dirt on the track. But going early worked yesterday. Let's go for it again. Let's have a clear track. And that is a really, really good lap. 1:32.469, way quicker than he went before. Is he going to hold it up through the middle sector? He's not far off. Still only a 10th down, so he might not be able to quite match it. But this is quite impressive, actually, to get 3 consecutive quick laps. You're right on board with him now as he heads up into turn 13, where it all went wrong yesterday on the exit. Goes through that at about 160 kilometres an hour. He's at 200 kilometres an hour, building now all the time, flat out through turn 14. He's going to keep it out. This will be his last effort. He goes over the line. Is it any better than the one before? Wow, yes, it is, by 2 thousandths of a second. He goes even quicker, beats his own lap record. That's the shortest lap record ever. 1:32.467 seconds. Calvo is on fire.
Well, whoever said these tyres were only good for 1 lap was having you on, because that was impressive. 3 very quick laps. Most of the other drivers in the pits, only 3 drivers on track at the moment. Some team radio from Kelvin van der Linde.
Buddy, you will face Enxler maybe. Last push, last push.
Presume that was delayed. He's not going to go for a 4th quick lap, is he?
Well, I don't know, 4 out of this. Most of the cars, as I was about to say, were still in the pits. It was Max Powell's out on track at the moment as well. But now, as I said that, I can hear cars bursting into life, and I can see the timing screen starting to come alive. So now, everybody's had a look and they went, well, Kelvin's found a bit of speed. Let's see if we can do it as well. We are getting to the halfway point of the session. We've only got 1 competitive time on the board, but it's the new lap record. This is going to be an exciting 10 minutes.
One for now, but Max Powell has gone absolute best in the first sector. So yesterday's pole sitter will be on pole for tomorrow's race, if you follow me. 31.171, personal best through the second sector. That doesn't really mean anything, but he's about 2.5 tenths down through the second sector. So it is going to be a good lap if he keeps it going through sector 3. I don't think it's quite going to be good enough to beat Kelvin van der Linde, but this is his first push lap, and it was on Kelvin's second and third push laps where he went really quick. So Max Powell fully on it now, attacking through that last corner. Where is this going to put him? He should be at least second. Goes through, puts him to the top of the times. Well, we thought Kelvin was flying. Look at that from Max Powell, 1 minute 32.344. He's up for a provisional double pole position here. But there's a small matter of another 18 cars that are about to come out and have a go at it as well.
Wow, what an impressive lap, and he'll be absolutely buzzing about that. The problem that the other cars are going to have when they come out is they're probably all going to come out together, and they're going to be tripping over each other because they've got to find space to do this. Kelvin van der Linde and Max Powell have had pretty well an empty track to do these hot laps, and they've used it to the absolute max. And pardon the pun, and it's Max who's currently at the top of 132.344. So who's going to be next to blink?
Yeah, really good from Max Powell. Now, remember, this is his first full season in DTM. He's already a race winner. He had a couple of guest drives last year and got a win for the Grasser Racing team in very wet conditions from 13th on the grid at the Nürburgring. But here with his family-run team, Powell Motorsport, their first season in DTM. They've been together for a number of years, racing in other championships, GT Masters and so forth. But this is a whole new experience in DTM. And Max is very, very heavily involved in still running the team, working, talking with all the engineers, setting up the garage himself, doing everything. They all get involved. Spoke to him about this yesterday after his pole position, and he said, actually it really helps me because I understand everybody's role in the team. We all work together really well as a team. We're trying to have fun. We're trying not to put too much pressure on people because that doesn't bring the best out of them. And he's a really humble guy, he was very grateful to be congratulated on his pole position, but he's already laser focused on the next challenge. He's like, yeah, right, that's done. We've got pole position. We've got to go and do it again tomorrow. And I was really impressed with that. So Max Powell, 132.344. That Kelvin van der Linde can't believe that. He's done a brilliant lap. He's got a lap record. And then Max Powell goes even quicker.
Yes, he'll be wondering what happened there, won't he? So as those two come into the pits, having done their hot laps, their push laps, and you're wondering whether we're actually going to see him again in this session, the other 18 cars are now out on track trying to match that. So they've seen what can be done, but there is the problem. Sheldon van der Linde, Lucas Stoltz running together on the circuit. You've got to find the space. You don't want to be too close to the car in front or the car behind. Rene Rast out on track as well. He has had a fairly subdued yesterday. Felt a bit like the BMWs were struggling for pace maybe yesterday. They would have been analysing data overnight and been looking for something better today. But 18 cars out on track. Who is going to be next? It is Max Powell, the 132.344. That is the benchmark that has been set. Any theories about the track being slower today than it was yesterday, well and truly out of the window.
Arjamani might be one to watch. Mercedes have looked good. He was 5th in yesterday's qualifying session. He's averaged 7th on the grid this year so far, Arjamani. Last year, he averaged 19th on the grid. It's been a massive leap forward in qualifying for him and the HRT team. There's the SSR Performance Garage, far left corner. You can see Stefan Schlund there, who set up this company 6 years ago. They never intended to go racing, They're set up as an automotive business, and they've grown in 6 years from having a handful of employees to 70 employees, a huge 10,000 square metre warehouse set up in Munich. And they said, let's go and have a season of doing GT Masters. Let's see how it goes. And then they've ended up, they did a guest drive in DTM at the Nürburgring with Porsche and some engineering input from the Manthey team. Then they came and did a season with Porsche. Then last year, their second season, they switched to Lamborghini and challenged for the driver's title. It's been a huge rise to success for Stefan Schlund's team. And here they are fighting for the title once again with Mirko Bortolotti. Now, Lucas Stoltz is doing what Lucas Stoltz does, driving very, very quickly. As Ricardo Feller goes 3rd, that'll cheer him up a bit. Arjamani's looking good as well. Lucas Stoltz is going to come across the line. Arjamani goes 4th. What about Lucas Stoltz, 2nd quickest? So Kelvin van der Linde, he's going to watch on now and see himself dropping down the order to 3rd place. So Lucas Stoltz goes up into second, and he only misses out on pole position by 13 thousandths of a second, so Max Powell isn't safe yet either.
No, so a lot of drivers out there pushing hard now. Just watch Sheldon van der Linde popping up to P7, but a 1:36, so he's not on a push lap yet. So still building the heat in the tyres. Remember, not allowed tyre warmers in DTM, so it takes a little while to get the tyres into the window, a very narrow window of temperature. So you want to make sure you've got the grip, and then it's the big push.
Nicky Thiem up to third place, 1:32.396. He's due to shake off some bad luck this season. The Viking gets up to third place. He was quickest yesterday morning in free practice one. Marco Wittmann gets himself for now up into the top 10 as the best BMW. Sheldon van der Linde back in 12th. Reddy Rast, who starts tomorrow's race, stone last, is at the moment only 15th quickest, and Mirko Bortolotti goes up to third place. He's up there again as we ride on board with Ayanjan Nguyen, who was runner-up with Thomas Preining at the Nürburgring 24-hour race last weekend. He comes over the line to go 8th quickest, but Jack Aitken in the Ferrari, 4th quickest yesterday, just behind his teammate Thierry Vermeulen, absolute best in the second sector. The British driver in the Ferrari about to sprint for the line. This is going to put him somewhere near the top of the times as Ricardo Feller goes quickest for a few seconds only, because Aitken goes even quicker. So Feller briefly went quickest, and Aitken goes quicker, not just by a little bit, by nearly half a second, 1:31.762. Phenomenal lap.
Wow, I did not expect to see 1:31s in this session today. Jack Aitken, who won here 2 years ago in GT Masters, albeit in a Lamborghini, wasn't here last year, was elsewhere doing a racing, but back here this year, looking very dialed in. Where's Thierry Vermeulen? Because he'll be looking at his teammate and thinking, yeah, I can have some of that. He was the quicker of the two yesterday. He's currently in 10th place with a 1:32.592, but we'll have one eye on him. Mirko Bortolotti, personal best in Sector 1, but not in Sector 2. So have we seen the best from Mirko Bortolotti? P7 for him at the moment.
Yeah, super impressive. Yesterday was Thierry Vermeulen, his best qualifying in DTM so far. He was 68 thousandths quicker than Jack Aitken. They'll be third and fourth on the grid for tomorrow's race. But Thierry back a little bit at the moment. Jack Aitken at the top of the times, and Sheldon van der Linde from nowhere goes third, make it fourth, because Clement Schmidt in the McLaren goes second. It's only the third weekend for the Door Motorsport team. Now, we're up there in one of the free practice sessions yesterday, and Clement Schmidt has put it on the front row of the grid. A brilliant effort.
Ricardo Feller trying to improve on his P3. 2.5 minutes remaining of this session. Across the line goes Ricardo Feller. He stays in P3. So Feller, where you were in the Audi, it is a Ferrari from a McLaren with Argemini popping up into P3 now, 1:32.209. So you said that Argemini might have a bit of pace. What's Rene Rasker got that he can elevate himself up the grid? The answer being P6. So not
20th,
bad,
which is where he was.
Yeah,
and that puts down to 20th Thomas Preining, the reigning champion. He's stone last at the moment. He's also got 20 kilograms of success ballast to take into the race after winning last time out of the Lausitz ring. So he needs a lap in. Well, he's done a 31.4 through the first sector, which is 3/10 or so down on the best first sector time. So this isn't going to be the lap, but he'll have time for one more after it, Thomas Preining. So he's halfway around the lap at the moment, and just coming through the chicane, just about to come into turn 12. Marco Wittmann improves, but it's not enough to put him anywhere near where he wants to be in the order. 16th at the moment. You've got 9/10 of a second covering 17 cars. Sheldon van der Linde, who was on the podium here last year, the 2022 champion, absolute best in the first sector, on board with the BMW now as he makes his way down the back straight towards the end of the second sector. That's a 34.4. He backed it off. He's backed it off through the second sector, so it all looked good at the start, but it's not going to be a quick lap this time around, and he'll stay at best in 6th place behind Jack Aitken, Clement Schmidt, Argemini, Ricardo Feller and Lucas Auer.
Drivers who went early. It hasn't really worked this time around. Max Powell has been relegated down to P9. Kelvin van der Linde down in 13th place, and we saw the drivers getting out of the car, so they are done for the session. Less than a minute remaining. Sheldon van der Linde is done for this session as well, so P6 is as good as it's going to get for him. Out on the circuit, I can't see anybody who's lighting up the timing screens at the moment. Here's team radio from Sheldon van der Linde.
I can't go one more left, right? Fuck!
Apologies.
We need to box, sorry, we need to box.
He wanted to do one more. Maybe he hasn't got enough fuel on board to do one more. So apologies for the single-syllable words from Sheldon van der Linde. A bit annoyed with that. I was just keeping an eye on Thomas Pryne. He went up to 14th, but his first sector was only what he did last time out at 31.4. He's 4 tenths down in the second sector as well, so he's not going to improve, unless it's a mighty final sector. He's not even going to improve from 14th place, I don't think. It's just looked a bit undercut this weekend, the Porsche, hasn't it? Both Porsches.
Wow, check flag is out. He crosses the line. You can see, well, he's cruising now, isn't he? So, yes, P14 for the defending champion. That's there's going to be some long faces in the Manthey EMA pit because Iron Changun is in 16th as well. So not a great day for them. Checkered flag is out. Anybody who was on a hot lap would be able to continue. But as you can see, everybody is pretty well finished now, apart from Thierry Vermeulen. He's done a personal best in Sector 1. Looks like he's still pushing a bit, but now it looks like he's backed out of it as well, has he? No, Thierry Vermeulen's still
good first
pushing
sector,
a little bit. Yeah, absolutely. So he's in 15th at the moment. You can see Jack Aitken at pretty well the other end of the timing screen. So what can Thierry Vermeulen do to move himself up?
Second down at the moment on the pole time, but he could improve his position for sure here.
Well, he knows the speed's in the car, doesn't he? So he crosses the line. It was 15th, it remains 15th, so he didn't improve. That'll be frustrating for him. So excited. The home driver, Dutch driver, with lots of friends, family and fans here this weekend, would have been looking for something perhaps a little bit better than 15th for this, the first race of the weekend.
Still third on the grid tomorrow, so that to look forward to for Thierry Vermeulen and his teammate Jack Aitken on pole position for the third time in his DTM career, start of his second season in DTM. Who needs to practice in DTM around Zandvoort? He wasn't able to come last year. It doesn't matter. Jack Aitken has banged it on pole position with a phenomenal lap. 1 minute 31.762 seconds. That's the best part of 4 tenths of a second up on the second place car. So he's done it by a huge, huge margin here. And just looking with. That's the biggest gap of the year by a mile. The biggest gap up until now was 1 tenth of a second. We've had gaps of 6 thousandths, 44 thousandths and 70 thousandths of a second. So to do it by 4 tenths is a huge margin for Jack Aitken. And remember, last year, both pole sitters won the race. Jack Aitken won't have any success ballast on the car. But what an effort as well from Clement Schmidt. Absolutely phenomenal for the Dürr Motorsport team to put it on the front row of the grid here at Zandvoort. That is sensational, and that equals his own personal best qualifying performance as well. There is Clements in picture. He was second on the grid at Hockenheim a couple of years ago. Brilliant effort from him, and Arjun Maini has equalled his best qualifying with third place as well. Ricardo Feller, I think, will actually weirdly be pretty happy with fourth place because he was 10th yesterday. He was off the pace all day long. They've obviously worked hard on the setup, and I think he'd be pretty happy to be fourth on the grid, and of course ahead of all of his nearest championship rivals.
Jack Aitken will be fancying this as his best opportunity to get his championship chase back on track after a very disappointing Lausitz ring. As is traditional, we like to look at the gap separating the whole field. Well, the answer is 9 tenths of a second from 1st to 19th. Christian Engelhardt, though, off the pace, 1.3 off the pole time.
Jack Aitken on pole position then for race 1 at Zandvoort, ahead of Clement Schmidt, Arjun Maini and Ricardo Feller. Lucas Auer 5th, Sheldon van der Linde in 6th, René Rast his teammate 7th, Nicky Tim in 8th, Max Powell, tomorrow's pole sitter, starts 9th. That would have equalled his best until yesterday. And Lucas Stoltz rounding out the top 10. Mirko Bortolotti, who went a bit earlier than the others around him, just outside the top 10 in 11th place. Ben Dürr as well, hats off to him, 12th place. That's his best qualifying so far in the other McLaren. Kelvin van der Linde wound up down in 13th place. None of the top 3 in the championship score points though, so it remains an 8-point championship lead for the South African as we go down to Verena in the pits.
And I'm here with Clement Schmidt, so good start, starting in P2 in the race later on. I mean, so far this season hasn't been all that fruitful, but now today you can end up on a podium, so that's looking good.
Yeah, I mean, we knew the whole weekend we have a really strong car. I mean, unfortunately, yesterday we were running in traffic in quali. Yeah, but the team made a really good step this weekend, and finally we could show that we are able to be in DTM.
Absolutely. And I mean, Zandvoort is an old school track. Is it one of your favorites? Do you like it?
Yeah, I mean, all the old school tracks are way better than the big parking spaces because here every mistake counts, and yeah, it's amazing to keep these old school circuits in service.
All right, well, best of luck for the race later on. Thank you, Clemens. Back to you.
Thanks, Farina. Yeah, absolutely outstanding effort that from Durr Motorsport and Clement Schmidt. They are brand new to DTM. It's their third weekend in DTM. So they've not been far off the pace in every weekend so far, but that is a proper step forward. What a difference a year makes. Last year, Clement Schmidt, as a Lamborghini driver, was 24th and 26th in qualifying. Here he is on the front row of the grid, the opposite end of the grid, starting second, ahead of Arjun Maini, who was also excellent in third place. But what an effort from Jack Aitken, 0.374 seconds ahead of anybody, the biggest gap by a mile in qualifying that we've had so far this year. And after a great start to the year with pole and a win for the first day of the season at Oschersleben, he got in dramas and a puncturing race too. Lausitzring was a bit of a disaster for the team, but he's right back up here with a big smile on his face as we go back down to Verena.
And starting in P3 today in the race is Arjun Maini. Great qualifying here in Zandvoort. So far your best position was 4th place, so hopefully today you can get a podium here in Zandvoort.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I'm super looking forward to the race. I have 2 races now with good grid positions, so 2 good chances for today and for tomorrow. The car was really, really fantastic, so thank you to the Haupt Racing team and Mercedes-AMG. I had a lot of confidence this morning, so yeah, it felt great. Felt great to drive around the track.
And how tricky is Zandvoort?
Yeah, it's an incredible track. I mean, I love these old school tracks. It's a shame that we don't have more of them these days, but yeah, it's great to be racing here, and it's great that DTM comes here.
All right, thank you very much. Best of luck for the race, and everybody's raving about Zandvoort. Back to you.
Absolutely. It doesn't feel like work when you come to Zandvoort, does it? It feels like a big holiday, but what an effort from Arjun Maini. That is his 4th third place on the grid. He was 3rd on the grid at the Red Bull Ring in 2021, at Hockenheim in 2021, and at Oschersleben this year. Looking to get his 2nd DTM podium. Remember, the first ever Indian driver to be on the podium when he finished 2nd at the Norris Ring at the end of 2021. So, join us for the race later on. From Brian Oliver and me, Chris Hartley, that's it. Let's go back down to Verena.
And here's a man who's starting in pole position, Jack Aitken. It's your 2nd pole this season, so a little smile on your face. Hopefully you can turn it into a win in the race later on.
Yep, I mean, really pleased. It was a really nice lap, and you know, track felt good, car felt good, and we already had 1 quali yesterday, which is a bit unusual, but just feeling quite nice with the car, and you know, we'll see how the race goes, but we should have the pace to turn it into a win and yeah, bring us back in the championship a bit.
All right, well, can't wait for the race. Hope to see you up on the podium. See you later, Jack. Thank you very much. And yeah, everybody loves Zandvoort, so let's see what the race brings. We cannot wait. So see you later. Here are the highlights. Do enjoy. Bye-bye.